Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to see you all again at GCPA, and indeed a privilege, and thanks to the entire team of Worldwide Media IT Polymers for giving us another chance to host you together with Milacron. Also pleasure to be the first on the panel, so welcome all the panelists. Straight away jumping into our topic on sustainable materials in automotive. My first question goes to our two key people from OEM. So first to Sanjay and Amol. So environmental conservation has always been on top of global agenda for almost every industry. Automotive is not different. So from your viewpoint, or what are the key drivers or key policies our government has, especially for automotive industry, that is driving towards usage of sustainable materials?
Thank you. So I was a part of the panel with the Niti Aayog and FICCI on circular economy, particularly for the automotives. And the thought process is very, very clear of defining the percentage of recycled materials, percentage of virgin materials, how much we can use the recyclability part. So there are some very, very clear 7 to 8 key KPIs which have been defined around these topics, including the resources also that we use during the manufacturing operations. And we hope that such things will be in place very soon. Automotive industry has already gone through a very grilling process into where we went from BS4 to BS6. And certainly that process required us to make a lot of investments, make a lot of very accelerated changes into the whole processes. And somehow in India, all these developments happen in a very, very fast-paced manner. The way our government is moving in very, very fast and sustainable directions, and they are not wrong into it. Simply because they have got an ambition. Just now, in the first panel, first speakers told about it. There's an ambition to grow from $3.5 trillion economy to $7 trillion economy in just 7 to 8 years now. Present $3.5 trillion has got 15% coming out of manufacturing. And obviously our automotive industry gives a sizable weightage to that. And that means almost $550 billion. Now, once you make it 7 trillion, and that time they are intending it to be 25% the manufacturing. So immediately it becomes $1750 billion. So that's the 3.5 times of growth that we are expecting to see in the next few years. Just few years, maybe 5-7 years. That's the type of thought process government is having. That's why Piyush Goyal and all the ministers are having such regular conclaves and meetings in New Delhi, and they're trying to push forward. And obviously exports will play a major role. Economy will certainly move from rural areas to the urban areas, and that's where dominantly it will be dependent upon the manufacturing and logistics sectors. Exports will certainly play a major role, and very rightly said, like from we, Skoda, Volkswagen, we are a dominantly an export-oriented unit over here. Almost 35 to 40% of our production from Skoda and Volkswagen is exported dominantly to Mexico and other economies on the lower half of the equator. And yes, now we are going to push it to Vietnam also. Our Pune plant is now a base for Vietnam as well as for African markets. So now coming to the materials part, so I'll say what will drive the change and why would the change is required. Say what resources are limited, whether it's energy or whether it is the materials. And if we keep on extracting like anything, we'll not have the resources left. So ultimately, circular economic philosophy is all about that. We should do the economic development, but not at the cost of the resources. Resources should be self-sustaining without any further extraction. And that is what is the basic principle of circular economy. And the earth has been like that for billions of years. All the nature has existed like that. It was only in the recent past, that time, say 90s onwards, where such materials got introduced, and we were forgetting about their what you call interrelationship with the nature, that such developments happened. However, very, very good news. Other than regulations, other than requirement of the nature, there are very good technological developments happening. Very recently, I think it was last week only, our Skoda's material and finish department brought out a wonderful event where they showcased what all they are doing. Number one, what was that? They're working on mono materials. That means monomaterials are the ones which are not any multi-layer plastics mixed up of things, so that there's a difficulty in recycling. So there's a very, very clear recyclability built up into those systems. Working on haptics, working on AI-based designs, simplified designs, so that all these parts are, number one, up to recyclability. Biggest thing about the plastics is that it will stay, whether it's IC engine or the electric vehicles, because all the interior components are going to remain, and even electric components, all the batteries and motors, everything has lots and lots of plastics. So I think we have to work on that thought process, that it has to be on good recyclability, because I'm very sure the Indian regulations are going to be very, very tough and very, very fast on that topic. Other than that, in Skoda and Volkswagen, both the cars, all the automotive seats, I'm not talking of India, I'm talking of Europe right now, all the electric vehicles which are coming are made of 100% recycled PET. 100% recycled PET is used for Skoda Enyaq as well as Volkswagen ID cars. Audi has been a forerunner into using bio-based materials, including wood and similar materials for the car. Other than bio-based materials, Audi has been a forerunner also into life cycle assessments. So, and that has really helped into the lightweighting and really almost improved the fuel efficiency by 5 to 6%. Lamborghini and Porsche, two luxury brands, have really used composites like anything to do the lightweighting and the fuel efficiency systems. So I'll say in summary, there are 3 areas in which the whole thing will move. Sustainability requirements certainly remain from the nature. So lightweighting and fuel efficiency as well as recyclability, or without coming to those business models as was just told, that we do not really end up using endless amount of resources. Second is regulations, and third thing is that inside out, bottoms up, what initiatives we can take as innovators or as responsible citizens of this earth. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Sanjay, you made my life a little bit easy, because that was my following question. You already answered part of it, but I would also like to hear from Amol what you think, and maybe also jump to the second question. What are your initiatives in your company?
So I think Sanjay has comprehensively covered the broader spectrum of the topic today, or the question that you specifically asked. But if you look at the approach of the government, it has been actually very aggressive in terms of pacing the overall development that we are actually experiencing in automotive sector. And if you look at whatever upcoming AIS 129 which is coming up, which is at a draft stage at this point of time, it demands for certain percentage of recyclability and recoverability on a vehicle level. Although that is quite in practice in developed countries, that has not been put in place in India as such. And we expect that to be in place for PV as well as for CV as well as two-wheeler industry as it is getting released. It is still at a draft stage, but people have started working on that. Most of the OEs have started working on it. And this being a part of the type testing, it is essential for OEs to understand the demands of AIS 129 and plugging those issues into the product design. And just to the interest of the members who are here, I think that governs the sourcing decisions for the OEs to a greater extent. Let it be raw material selection, let it be a technology selection, let it be a product design, or let it be a sourcing strategy for a particular OE. I think these factors or regulatory factors which are coming into play are playing very important role when we are designing our new vehicles. And that is where I think as a ecosystem partner who are present here, who are not present here, have an important role to play, not only to comply to the government regulations, but actually work in advance so that the technologies and aggregates are ready ahead of the requirement. So this was first part when you asked this specific question. Second important part where government has made it mandatory is that extended producer's responsibility. So whoever is the intended user or producer has to ensure that the life cycle of that particular aggregate is managed. Those assets, those requirements are tagged, not only produced, but the tagged, traced, and tracked appropriately till it is disposed till the end. I think today it is applicable only for some of the aggregates like battery and plastic packaging. But as the scope of this keeps on increasing over a period of time, which covers ferrous material, which will cover non-ferrous material, and many more parts that would probably come into this domain, I think the responsibility of the entire ecosystem, let it be on a demand side or onto the supply side, in both these cases, the responsibility of the overall system will go up. And these are the 2-3 key initiatives which are actually being driven by the government of India. And in upcoming time, I think we have exciting time to handle this type of regulations and actually plug in these inputs while we are designing our new products. I think this is the take from Tata Motors side.
Thanks. Anything specifically you want to say what Tata is doing in this field of sustainable material usage or anything?
So what happens now, in the sense, when there are two aspects to it. One point is that how do we actually comply to the current regulations? Because everyone into the marketplace has to ensure that we are pitching our products at a right price point and to the right customer base. And from that perspective, each and everything at the back end is worked out. So obviously there have been a lot of initiatives at Tata Motor in terms of recyclability is concerned, or reusability is concerned, or repurposing is concerned from an aggregate point of view. So there are a lot of initiatives happening across all the functions, and those are being driven and tracked internally at Tata Motor to see that the intended results are being met.
Thanks.
I'll just add one more small thing. Very recently, a word called right to repair has come, where we are supposed to be doing much more repairability to our parts and components. So that is also one area which is coming as another bolt to the industry.
You mentioned a very important point, Amol, that in this journey, of course, the value chain players also play an important part. And now we have Varroc and Supreme with us. They have decades of experience in this field. So obviously question to you, how as a tier one or sometimes even an ODM, how do you see this, or what are you doing in this space? Any projects, any specific things you are doing? Maybe Parvez and then.
Yeah, good morning all. So Varroc has a clear strategy on sustainability and reusability of plastics. I just reading this article with having estimated that 60% of emission by 2040 will be due to only materials. So we have started already two projects are already in production. So one older project is that we have used a coffee shell material as a biomaterial added into a PP and replace the Ford housing with this. And this year probably we are launching another project which we have used a natural fiber as a replacement of talc. So it giving a tremendous advantage of 20% weight saving. Also energy saving. I was surprised when I see that we are taking trials and find out that the processing temperature of this material is more than 40% less than the conventional materials. So this is cover both energy as well as CO2 emissions. Another way we are working that we are identifying the reusable material contained. Previously we studied various percentage in our level with all specification of OEMs to cover up that how much of in-plant reproduction material can be added in our product, which is approved and meet the specification of OEMs. Last year or this year beginning, we have a very nice discussion with VW, one of that our polymer team. I was also part of this discussion that we are a natural fiber material which have been textures. So it will be a good look for a trim and all. So there are two ways of working in this sustainability topic, especially to materials, because I am a more related to material guy. So one way we either introduce biomaterials. This is the simplest way. Another is use the recycled content. I don't think we have to rely on a single-use materials. So as this is not one responsibility of Taiwan, it's a collaborative efforts from raw material supplier, from Taiwan supplier for OEMs. And what the challenges I am seeing currently that there is less limited data available. So producing a data like crash data, then different stain rate data, which is conventionally available because this is mature for over a period of time. For these technologies and materials, we don't have such a specific data. So overcome, these are the major challenges, and Varroc is very focusedly working on this sustainability.
Thank you, Parvez.
Yeah,
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Talking about Supreme, perhaps we are uniquely placed in this industry in the sense that we not only serve the automotive industry as a component supplier, but we also are backward integrated. We do our own materials, even to the extent of processing our fibers. So this gives us a lot of advantage. If I talk from the group perspective, perhaps a few years back itself, we started thinking about moving from linearity to circularity. We know our OEM partners or our OEM customers, they have started emphasizing recently, but we had initiated a four-pronged strategy. So what we call is better by design, better by materials, better by performance, and better by end of life. If I just expand a bit on it, so our designs should typically look at zero waste mentality. Whether we achieve zero wastage design right at the beginning may not be feasible, but that's the direction as a team we want to progress on. Again, better by materials. When we talk of using the renewed materials, we talk of using the repurposed materials, and we are also talking of finding the ways of how to bring the material, which are natural. And Mr. Khare mentioned about talking about using the multiple layers of the same material or monomers. We have started doing this, and we have started doing this commercially now also. Of course, the challenges, as Amol put it, the cost becomes a key factor of discussion. But yes, we have started doing it. Again, when we are talking of better by end of life, we as organization, and we want to look at peers also, we have started developing what we call as ecosystem of how to bring back our own products into the domain of where we can re-extract some of the materials. Now, everybody looks at government's initiatives, everybody looks at talking about vehicles to be recycled. But we as material suppliers know our product well, and we are also trying to see how we can develop that ecosystem where our products, at least, for example, we are in soft trims, carpets, headliners, how can we extract these and then try and repurpose them, reprocess them, renew them? We are trying to work on those directions.
Thanks. And one key important point, I think all of us we heard, the designers have a challenge, or rather they have also important role to play the way they will design, whether it's a part system or a vehicle. And also then the challenge comes to us, we are the material side. I think Parvez mentioned that, and we enjoy a lot of discussions with you, Parvez. So still I'm a moderator, but I would like to add as a group that from Covestro side, we are doing something in circular economy products, whether it's content of recycled content grades, or whether it's a mass balance product using bio-based feedstock or renewable energy. So the good news is that we are doing some work already. We will be happy to talk to you, not now, but anytime soon, also on our table outside. So we need to definitely work together, and that's my next question. How does the tier one work in this field? So you wait always for OEM pull that, okay, somebody needs to ask, and then we start working. You already mentioned you are having a couple of projects. You are working on your end of life products. So how do you see this? Maybe it's a little provocative question, but it's good for us to discuss in this forum. We are one family finally. Yeah?
Let me take it first. Obviously, as tier ones, we look at OEMs as big brothers. So we always look at them having a big brother approach and take the first initiative. However, again, we know that in sustainability, any sustainability initiative, you always have to balance between environmental concerns, talking about economics, and then social responsibility. So that balancing act is very, very difficult. As tier ones, of course, as a tier one, we try to bring to table what we understand from our product perspective, our materials perspective. And normally we have very, very engaging discussions and enriching discussions when we talk to OEMs, especially people in the R&D and design. They want to look at it, and if it is not possible to immediately implement it, perhaps in coming years. So this is one thing which is encouraging in recent times. It's not one-way traffic, it's been a two-way traffic, which is very, very good.
So just to add what Jay Prakash had mentioned was that, see, for example, in case of Tata Motor, we have decided that we'll by 2045 in terms of commercial vehicle and by 2040 in terms of passenger vehicle, will be net zero carbon footprint. Okay, that is the overall broad level time scale that we have kept in mind, and we are aggressively working towards that because it's a challenging task. It's not going to happen in 1 or 2 years. Now, what happens, like us from a OE side, every OE will have his own technology roadmap. Okay, now it's not for 1 year, 2 year, or 5 years. It runs for 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years. And that is how the aggregate development, raw material development, and technology development happens on an aggregate and raw material level. Now, how do we jointly find out the opportunities to plug in the solutions coming up from the tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 so that we have a common synergy between raw material supplier or a tier 1 supplier and the OE. That is where I think that is where the dialogue which keeps happening at every OE, which has to happen in this case also, and is happening practically everywhere right now. And that is where the role of the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 comes into the picture. So it is a two-way. First, that how do we actually engage in such of discussions? How do we get an access to this type of information within a OE? Okay, you just approach the OE and tell them that what is your technology roadmap, no one is going to share. But if you have interesting product, and if it encourages the OE to share its part of the technology roadmap which aligns to or which is complementary to that particular tier or tier 1 or tier 2, then it makes sense. And that is where we have to continue to have this dialogue between, I think, both the parties to see that how do we develop the synergy between these two parties to identify the solutions which can probably help us to meet the overall target. Because the targets are sacrosanct. Okay, we will go along with government, every OE will work towards meeting these targets. So like this, like we have target here, we also be having some targets internally for India as well as for global products. So this is how it works actually. And Jay Prakash has mentioned that while there is a push required from government and OE, there is also equally push required from tier 1 and tier 2 with their technologies which can be futuristic in nature and which can complement to the OE developments. That is where the synergy will get developed and those will be picked up for the implementation.
Thanks. Interesting.
I can say that we from Varroc generally is searching opportunity. We finding the opportunity where we can introduce. So we constantly working, we make some proto, we approach to OEM that this material change, this thing can help us. And this is not happen with Varroc only. This is a collaboration with a raw material supplier. Obviously, because Varroc cannot produce the raw material. So either we can collaborate with established raw material supplier, or we are also eagerly working with the new startups. So currently I'm working with one startup. He was very energetic to sustainable material. So obviously the basic resin come from the established raw material supplier, then goes to compounder. Compounder work with based on our requirements, meet to our requirement. Now our job is how to design with conventional material to that material, do the validation and testing and approach to OEM that we meet your specification. So this is the way we are currently working to introduce a lot of material. Lot of time we are not getting the correct requirements, but once we have a focus and we have a learning that what currently required need to develop in the formulation. So this is the way we are currently working. Obviously, it is not that we can say the sustainability is only talk the talk. It is, we can walk the walk, I can say. So it is not individual responsibility, it is holistically responsibility of all. From sourcing to everyone, not in one person we can say that this is my target. No, it is everyone's target. So let's collaborate and do the sustainability. That's how I can say.
Thanks. You actually stole my last statement, which I wanted to make at the end, but thanks for doing that. Because that's the message I think we all want to take away, that we need to collaborate together. And we are obviously ready because we are a part of this entire value chain. We cannot work in isolation, same like OEM or same like Tier 1. Probably one last question is regarding, and I think you mentioned already, you also talked a little bit about end of life, the vehicle scrappage policy that we have. So how do you see that more as a challenge or more as an opportunity? And is there anything specific that on a roadmap basis you are working with such kind of policy as an OEM?
You see, I think it is part of the public domain. I think in Tata Motor, when it comes to the scrappage of the registered vehicle, I think we, under the brand name of Rewire, Tata Motor has already opened 2 scrappage facilities, one in north and the one into the, I would say, south or eastern zone. There are many more scrappage facilities will come from Tata Motor side in order to have a pan-India presence. And obviously, as we move, as the market matures over a period of time, these are the facilities which will definitely come into the picture, and there will be stricter and regulatory norms which will come into the picture. I think we have been building this consciously, at the same time keeping in mind the future needs. When it comes to the Tata Motor, I think we have 2 which are already established, 2 more are coming, and many more will come in future, which actually will not only consume, or maybe will not only take the PV, but also commercial vehicles of all the brands. It's not only for Tata Motor, but all the brands will be processed into the scrap center. So this is a very good initiative from Tata Motor side in order to see that how do we support the circular economy, and which actually is one of the step towards moving to the developed markets. If you look at the developed markets, probably these are the very established practices. And as the norms become more and more stringent, and as the more and more aggression and push comes from the government side or regulatory side, I think these are the things which are inevitable and which will happen. And from Tata Motors side, we are fully aligned and committed to make it happen. So we already have a plan in place, which is also in the public domain.
Thank you for sharing that. General question to all of you. In your individual opinion, how do you see the consumer awareness in India about having sustainable material content in a vehicle? As a, let's say if I'm going to buy a car, am I asking the question whether this contains any sustainable material? Have we reached that kind of a stage? As an OEM, are you creating any such awareness? Or do you see that it is not yet there? Maybe it takes another 5 years before people start asking these kind of questions. So it's still few years ahead. How do you see that?
So just now, my colleague had mentioned that an automotive buyer starts from the first vehicle, maybe a two-wheeler, moves to a first second-hand vehicle, then to a new vehicle, and then maybe to a new Audi, and then he dreams of a Lamborghini also. So the time his mind moves out of this thought process of how much kitna deti hai, that time his thought moves towards these thoughts. As of now, the mind is very much cost conscious in the entire market. However, the positive news is that a lot of dialogues have started, a lot of discussions have started like this room, and I think these discussions need to go down to the bottommost level in each of our organizations also. I see our younger generation is very, very active on this topic. I am personally mentoring a few startups based out of IIM Bangalore, and lots of them are working on these topics of sustainability and materials. So I think that's a positive news happening, and this younger generation is, our Gen Z and onwards, is much more conscious about these topics. So I am very sure all these changes are going to come soon.
Yeah, thanks.
It's always a question into the early stage of the product development. Okay, at what point of time this technology will be viable at a marketplace? And it's always a demand and supply. The way we look at the demand and supply, at one point of time, there will be a viability of a particular technology, and that is a tipping point, and thereafter the demand will subsequently go up. And obviously we have to ensure that the supply side also is ready at that point of time. But what happens in the ecosystem is that we all put together, we have to continue to work on these technologies. Consumer awareness is first step, but at the end of the day, our market is not that matured. If you look at the average, although we produce volumes in terms of passenger vehicle and commercial vehicles in India, in terms of volume, the picture looks quite better or aggressive, or I would say relativity point of view, it is better. But when it comes to the average price point of the vehicle, then we realize that we are not that in the top of the list as compared to developed countries. And that is where I think to what extent consumer is ready to pay for this type of awareness is more important. And I think at some point of time, some of the critical stakeholders in ecosystem will realize that how do we actually incentivize these behaviors. If XYZ OE is coming up, or if there are certain set of OEs coming up with this type of materials or technologies on their vehicles, and they're pushing it to the market side so that we are able to get that green zone in terms of a pricing point and ecosystem development. I think that is the area where the influential stakeholders has to incentivize the behavior of the OEs. Okay, if that doesn't happen, then the price point comes into the top of the mind for a consumer while considering your product in the consideration list. Okay, and thereafter the selection will come. And even today, our market is extremely price sensitive. And the moment it reduces, the price sensitivity reduces at the marketplace, then probably the OEs will have little more flexibility to experiment with this. Till that time, there will be always an effort to look for low-cost solutions to meet the consumer demand. So that will always be there as long as we are continue to address the demand at a lower segment of the price point or medium segment of the price point. And if you look at even the developed countries, you will realize that most of the technologies have got a better penetration, but that penetration is at the high-end vehicles. Okay, but good part is that technologies are in place, they are productionized, and we know the know-hows of those technologies. Only point is that how do we get it in India? How do we develop the scale? How do we make it cost competitive? And how do we create a pull for this technology from a market side? Once the demand is established from supply side, I think it's a matter of time. Once the demand is there from a supply side, let me tell you, the people who are sitting here and who are outside this hall, they have an ability to turn it around quickly to make the product available at the right price points.
So in other words, the ball is in our court and probably Mr. Bill Shukla's court, that when he next time meets Piyush Goyal, then he probably says that please incentivize usage of sustainable raw materials.
I did not say so.
That was on a lighter note. But thank you very much for a nice, yeah, Parvez, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it is sustainability we should have advertised also. That is how I seen in the Ford when we launched, he advertised like anything. Everywhere he shown that. So this is how we have to advertise also. Incentive and all, this is the next step. If somebody is launching, they should advertise it so then the customer know that, okay, this is a sustainability. And I think it is a matter of time in India where the capacity of buying people are changing. So they might ask that I want sustainable things in my car. And the change of EV, there are a lot of scope that we can easily change the internal parts, cockpits and some luggage or tow trims and all, which is our sustainable materials. So slowly people will see the advertisement and they will start asking this future that is this car, how much is the sustainable material? And probably the OEM when launch, he says we have a 20% or 30% sustainable material in our car. So this is going to be change the scenario.
That's nice. It's very encouraging that the journey is just starting. So I think it should be exciting for all of us. Thank you, gentlemen, for a very interactive discussion. And I would like to just remind once again on behalf of the organizers, we have two interesting topics coming up later on, which are on sustainability. I think there is one panel discussion on recycling and another one on materials for battery packaging. These all part of sustainability. So please stay with us. Some more interesting topics are coming again. So thank you once again for joining, and let's go to the next one. Thank you.